In Killaruelo de Araba, practically all the families cultivated their own vineyards, produced the necessary wine for their own consumption and owned a winery. Currently, each farmer makes his own wine in small lagaretas or presses, having lost the communal sense that he had while the wineries were in operation. But for those from Killaruelo de Araba, it is still a pride to take their guests to the winery and have a good time tasting the wines. The vintage. The hawthorns required care throughout the year: pruning, sarmenta, digging, sulfur, and harvesting. Until the 50s of the last century, a hoe, pruning shears, a guerrillo and a pair of arms were the only tools used. When the grapes began to paint, ripen, a guard was set up to watch the hawthorns. The grape harvest was a real festival and the whole town participated in it. The winery. Although the construction of the winery is earlier, the first written documentation is from the year 1940, in which it is specified that the capacity of the winery was 80 cars. In other documents from the year 1958, the capacity of the press is calculated at 160 loads. The building has 2 stacks at different levels. In the first one, the clusters are placed to be pressed, and in the lower and smaller one the must is collected. Both are connected by a channel called piquera. In the center and above the piers is a large elm beam, about 9 meters long. At one end of the beam is the large stone pylon, which is connected to the beam by the spindle, wood carved like a screw. The baskets that arrived at the press were weighed with a Roman. The pertinent annotations were made in order to establish the correspondence between the grapes deposited and the must that had to be delivered to each one. In addition, they needed a man to remove the wine from the cellar, another to canteria, measure the wine by pitchers, 4 or 5 shooters, usually waiters, to transport the pelahas, goatskin boots. The first pressing was done by stepping on the clusters and, when the volume decreased, the press was put into operation. Afterwards, streets were opened around the pile to facilitate the exit of the must through the spout, and later the bunches were piled in the center and the castle was made by piling up planks and wooden sleepers in a kind of pyramid until they hit the central beam. The cellar. It was customary for the shooters to take advantage of the trips to the wineries to try to wash the faces of the girls they met along the way with must. They also cut the skins to wet the snack bread of the boys who approached. The Killaruelo de Araba wineries were built by excavating the rock. They consist of a common central corridor, on whose sides the doors of the rooms or cellars of private property open.